Hey, everybody. It is the Wednesday show, Browns postseason edition, right? Postseason Wednesday, right? So I am your host, Mike Killy. I'm joined with Bonzo1273, Mike Ristano, Real Browns fan 32. What's going on? Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. It's been a wild season, and it's finally over. It's for us at least. NFL is still going on. We got the Super Bowl coming up here, and for all intents and purposes, there's still some football, some stuff going on. But it's on to the off season. There's some things that happened this week that we're going to get into. So I'll kick it off over to you, Mike. How has your week been, and are you staying abreast with what's going on in the NFL?
I am, and it's crazy because it's Wednesday, but I feel like I've been through two weeks worth of weeks, if that makes sense to everybody listening out there. Like it's Wednesday, but man, I feel like I've already been through Wednesday like twice this week. So it's been a long week for me. I don't know why, but yeah, there's been some interesting stuff Browns wise. On the Browns front, there's I mean ad nauseum with this OBJ trade rumors, and then of course, I'm not even going to say her name. I refuse. But of course, she put out an article today about it, and I don't know. It's just it's all nonsense. Bill Barnwell, everybody was in an uproar today, and it did look like a mock draft, but it actually wasn't. I have ESPN Plus. I went and looked at the article, and it was Bill Barnwell was doing a list of certain teams and what they would give up and trade for Deshaun Watson. And there's just I mean, it's that time of the year, but
You got
you know
nothing
I,
else to talk about.
no, they really don't. And it's and the crazy part too, and what bothers me is a lot of these type of articles are behind paywalls. So it's like people that don't want to pay for certain stuff, and I wouldn't pay for it. It just happens to come along with my Verizon telephone subscription. But
Right.
it's sort of, I don't know. It's ridiculous. Like, don't if you're gonna throw an article out there with stupid stuff like that that's gonna get a rise out of people, at least don't have it behind a paywall. But I mean, I guess it is what it is. But yeah, there's been you know some some different type of brown stuff like we were just talking about or whatever. And I'll be honest with you, Mike. I've already started diving into the draft,
Hmm.
and we'll get into it more as we go. But I'll lead us in with this, and then when we get to that point, we'll discuss it. But I'm trying to find our Tyreek Hill or McCall Hardman. So that's where I'm at right now.
So you're looking for a wide receiver in the draft? Is that what you're
I
looking for?
do, but I want to. It's so evident when you watch the Chiefs, and I mean you look at Tyreek Hill. I mean, he runs a 4.29 40. So I mean, he's sub 4.3, which is insanity. And then you throw Hardman in there at the same time. Hardman is a sub 4.37 guy, and you really see what that speed does uh, for an offense. So I mean, if we could get a guy that has that type of speed to add to this offense, it opens up so much. I mean, you look at what Tyreek Hill brings, and you see what Hardman brings, and then Travis Kelsey is him getting open the way he does. And don't get me wrong, he's elite, but that's a big part of the equation as to why he's able to run roughshod all over the field, because they've got to account for that just dead burn speed. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
yeah,
And I mean that's John Dorsey. That's
yeah.
John Dorsey for you. Like I don't know about Tyreek Hill and how he was in college or anything like that. If there's any character issues or anything like that that made him with that kind of athletic ability, you would have thought he would have been easily top 10 type guy, right? When you're running that fast. But
Yeah,
I mean,
Tyreek had his issues.
yeah. So
Yeah,
there's that. It's worked out. I know he's had a couple issues even when he's been in the NFL.
Yeah.
and that they've seemed to be able to work through them. I mean, they didn't want to lose Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill. I mean, that would have just been kind of crazy for them.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you that I think in terms of what we're looking for in the draft, and even what we have, you know, drafting Harrison Bryant and getting Austin Hooper, like maybe that was our attempt, or maybe some sort of attempt to get an elite tight end,
Yeah.
because if you look at the guys like Mark Andrews and Kittle and those guys, and of course Travis Kelsey. I mean, those guys, they're undefendable,
Yeah.
really. I mean, there's not really an answer for those guys. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who was talking about that, and they were like, "How do you leave Travis Kelsey that open?" I'm like, it's it's not that they left him that open. It's that you know Travis Kelsey is a blocking linebacker, or I'm sorry, a blocking tight end, and then he has the ability to slip underneath and become open, and he's an elite wide receiver. So he's a wide receiver, elite wide receiver in a body of a tight end, with the athletic ability to do what wide receivers do, and then also block like a tight end.
Yeah.
They're rare. Kittle's one of them. Tony Gonzalez was one of them. Mark Andrews is the other guy. And you look at it and you go, how much of that you have to account for Tyreek Hill burning you downfield.
Yep.
And then you got to account for which the NFL just has not seemed to figure out a way to counter Travis Kelsey. And I mean, what do you do? Do you put a defensive back on him, and then you have another, light, quick guy that can be easily blocked
But then you
for running
saw,
plays?
and not to interrupt you, but then you saw when we played them, we put Denzel on him, arguably one of the best cover guys in the NFL, at least top 5.
Mm-hmm.
And Kelsey's athleticism, I mean, he left Denzel, with his shoes off.
Yep. So you can't put a linebacker on. You can't put like a talkie on him. And
Yeah.
and is there even in the entire NFL a linebacker with the type of pass coverage athletic ability to cover a Travis Kelsey and account for the run?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think that we are going to. Funny that was a beautiful segue, because we're going to see that matchup in the Super Bowl, because I can't wait to see Devin White on Kelsey, and then we'll see, because there's that linebacker with elite speed that we covet.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. And then you've got, this team again. A lot of this team was put together by John Dorsey, who is now just picked up by Detroit as a
Yep.
senior personnel consultant or something. Which is what they wanted to turn him into in
Yeah.
Cleveland. But
Yep.
obviously, you're not going to go from a general manager to a, vice president of player personnel or something like that. I mean, that's a
Right.
demotion for him. And interestingly, he didn't get picked up as a general manager for these teams that are out there that need him. If I'm the Houston Texans and I'm like, look, I got to rebuild, or the New York Jets, how are you not taking a look at a guy who completely revamped the Browns?
Yeah.
And I give him
Absolutely.
credit for that. But then on top of it, at least from a player perspective, but
Yeah.
then also put a team in the AFC Championship game, a Super Bowl victory, and then back in the Super Bowl the next year. It was his rosters that did it. So I think I'm very surprised that John Dorsey did not get an official GM job, and I would assume that he wanted one, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me, that didn't happen. And maybe it's they don't want him to be anywhere near the coaches, because he doesn't have the best track record there. But in terms of players, man, he can pick them, because you look at Pat Mahomes, and I got into a big argument on Twitter, not really a big argument, but just like interesting argument.
A little scuffle, if you will.
Yeah, I mean it's fun to do that, right? But and I have been quoted saying this, and I tell you again, guys, I think Pat Mahomes is going to go down in history as the best quarterback to ever play the position. Statistically, through his first 3 seasons starting, I know he's been in the league 4 years, but he didn't do anything his first year. He just sat behind Alex Smith. In his first 3 years, he's just been incredible. and AFC Championship, Super Bowl title, and then following Super Bowl this year. Now, anybody out there, all these weak weak takes that Tom Brady is the greatest ever. All of these people that are just looking at 6 rings, and he's got 6 rings, so he must be the best ever. And now he's done it again in Tampa, so he's definitely the best ever. These are the people that if you happen to go to Buffalo Wild Wings for lunch, and you're just like, I'm just gonna go to Buffalo Wild. I'm just gonna go. I'm on a trip. I'm just gonna hit up Buffalo Wild Wings to sit at the bar. These are the conversations you hear, right? Of the other like beer drinking dudes in Buffalo Wild Wings, the guys who are just still consuming ESPN regularly, right? And while I don't disagree that Tom Brady is the winningest quarterback of all time, I don't, and in the modern era, I should say, I don't consider him from a skill set perspective to be the best quarterback I've ever seen. And that to me it's a lot easier to look at stats and look at rings and look at what's happened in the past and go, that guy, this is the guy. Whereas I think it's just more interesting to look and go, put your money where your mouth is, make a stand. Like, do you think Pat Mahomes is going to be better or is better at this point? And I think Pat Mahomes at 25 years old is better than Tom Brady when Tom Brady was 25 years old. And Pat Mahomes is better at 25 than Tom Brady is at 43. So all that stuff in between is now what has to be determined throughout the course of the body of work. But I'm not arguing body of work because that's impossible. I'm just saying Pat Mahomes, to me, is the best quarterback of all time. Now, the other argument will be, if Tom Brady beats Pat Mahomes in this Super Bowl, will that then stain Pat in terms of, can he be considered if he lost head-to-head? And I will say this, the quarterback position is not the only position on the field in football. If Pat Mahomes goes out there and throws 5 touchdowns and they end up losing the game, it is not on Pat Mahomes. If he goes out there and throws 5 interceptions and Tom Brady throws none or less than that, then yeah, then you can make the argument. But we'll have to see. But the other thing that goes into it is I think the Chiefs are a little bit beat up. I don't think they're all super healthy. Pat Mahomes isn't super healthy. He's got the turf toe situation and probably should have been out of the game last week with the concussion. And then on top of it, the game's being played at home. So Tom Brady, for his entire career, having the cushiest possible career ever, now gets the literally, in the history of the NFL, the cushiest Super Bowl ever. So the people that were arguing with me that Pat Mahomes is not better than Tom Brady are going to be, frothing to come at me if Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl. But I think the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. I think they're going to win it away in Tampa against the home team. That's me. That's where I go with it. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Like, how do you feel
about everything you just said?
Yes.
So
where do you stand on the Tom Brady is the greatest ever?
I have to say that being the age that I am and everybody that I saw play the game,
mm-hmm.
I think from a pure quarterbacking lens,
mm-hmm.
it would be Peyton Manning. I think from a just numbers, victories, the ability to just what seems like overcome anything. And I know he lost 2 or 3 Super Bowls, whatever. But I mean, if you go back and look, it was you had the fluke on the catch on the helmet and what have you.
And he lost twice to Eli.
To the Giants, yeah. So I think that you cannot discredit the ability to go out and win 6 rings, and in my opinion, it'll be 7 after next weekend or 2 weeks, because I just don't think that there's something about Tom Brady,
mm-hmm.
and I feel like he could have went anywhere this year. I mean, with the exception of the obvious, like Jets or the Bengals or someone along those lines, but I think that he could have went anywhere else with a team that had good talent and would take that team to the Super Bowl. There's just something about Tom Brady that he finds a way, and I think it goes back to, you know, his career at Michigan, and I mean, he was like 3rd on the depth chart,
Yeah.
and he fought and fought and fought, and I mean, they drafted him. I mean, Bledsoe was their guy. I mean, Brady was just a. I mean, I'm sure they saw some talent in him, but I mean, they didn't draft him to be, you know, what he became. So I think there's just, there's just something about him, and you just can't deny the 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 talent there. And I mean,
Yeah.
and to think back of like all the guys I've seen, the Montanas and the Aikmans and the Bradshaws and the Staubachs, and I mean, there's an argument could be made for a lot of different. I mean, you look at Dan Marino. Dan Marino was probably one of the best pure quarterbacks that ever played the game. Didn't win a ring. He gets negative views for that. But I mean, there's a guy that I mean, you could compare him to the the I should say the pure elevated quarterbacking of the Peyton Manning type of player was Dan Marino as well.
Yep.
So
Well, let me ask you
you
this.
know,
Let me
yeah,
change the question then.
yep,
If you had access
hmm,
to all of the you're starting your franchise and everybody, it's just like a Madden franchise
yep,
draft where everybody's drafting players, right? Everybody's just drafting players. So no team exists yet, and you have access to historically every player to ever play football, and you have the first pick, and and let's just say we're going to assume that your first pick is going to be a
quarterback.
quarterback, right? Because you'd probably have to say that might be the right move. But it also could be like, well, if I have access to every player ever, kind of like in fantasy football, you never draft a quarterback in the first round, right?
Right.
You might draft like Lawrence Taylor or something like that, like one of those positions that isn't going to have as much depth.
Now let me ask you a question. When I'm making this pick, right? My number one objective for this quote unquote fantasy team that I'm building
Mm-hmm.
is to win Super Bowls, right?
Yep, I'm say that. Fair.
So if I had to take a quarterback with the first pick and my goal is to win Super Bowls,
Mm-hmm.
I go Tom Brady. I have to. I have to go Tom Brady because he has proven that he can not only get us to the promised land,
Mm-hmm.
but he can win. I mean, think about that for a second though. For and like when I look back on Tom Brady's career, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think of some of those teams that he went to the Super Bowl and won with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was throwing to like receivers from like a 1AA college squad, and he was getting it done. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier, that he there's just something about the guy. He just wins. And if that's what I'm looking for in my franchise and I want to win Super Bowls, I'm taking that guy. But now,
Now, take into consideration
yep,
if we're talking about guys who, um, that if you're taking Tom Brady, then you're taking even though Tom Brady won early on in his career,
hmm,
you're taking Tom Brady early on in his career where his stats were similar to what Baker's stats were this year versus a guy like Pat Mahomes who is throwing 50 touchdowns his first year and following that up with like 35, right?
now
And,
let me
and
ask you a question. Let me play devil's advocate here.
okay,
If you take Mahomes, when Mahomes went in to start, he had a Hall of Fame coach.
okay,
He had a solid line,
hmm
and he had all stars at all of the skill positions at that point. He had Tyreek Hill, he had Kareem Hunt, he had Kelsey, and Hardman was there as well.
He had weapons, yes.
So he stepped in day one with a Hall of Fame coach that essentially coached him up to get him ready to play at that pro level. Because as you remember when he came in, he was still very,
He
very
did sit.
green.
Yep.
Yep. And it was like they took him and they plopped him right in with Pro Bowlers. So then you wonder what would his game look like if he was throwing to whoever Tom Brady, and I'm just going back to Tom Brady because that's what we're talking
Fair.
about.
Fair.
But what would the beginning of his career look like if he was throwing to and I don't know why the names always escape me of in the early days of the Patriots, but I think it's just because I'm getting old. But I mean, he did not have superstars by any stretch of the imagination, and all the guy did was go out and win Super Bowls. So I obviously will never know because we can't go back in time and you know take weapons away. But I sort of I wonder about that because and I mean and I think it's valid
I think it is.
um, because you say to yourself and I get it. I mean you look at the throws that he makes and the decisions that he makes and he's exceptional and I'm not taking anything away from the guy, but I'd love to see Baker Mayfield in that same offense with Andy Reid with continuity and Hill and Kelsey and Hunt, etc., and see what would have transpired at that point. And thank you, AW. Yes, David Patton, Deion Branch, and Troy Brown.
I was gonna
Guy
say
went out and
Troy
won Super
Brown.
Bowls.
Troy Brown, I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah, you remember David Patton and Deion Branch as well. They were like
yeah,
average, whatever. Troy Brown was I wouldn't say Troy Brown was elite. Hey, Dad. I don't think Troy Brown was
they did.
elite by any means, but what I will say, if I'm playing devil's advocate against my argument, the year that Tom Brady had Randy Moss and threw 50 touchdowns, and Randy Moss had like 26 or whatever, some stupid amount of touchdowns. Tom Brady was as elite as you can get, essentially. It's like one of the best statistical years of playing football.
Was that
Um,
that might have been the catch on the helmet year?
I think it was because it
I
was it
think it
was definitely
was.
a loss to the Giants, right?
Yeah,
In the
because yeah, no, you're right. I think it was that year because Brady had just drove him down, and then the magic happened on the other way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and then you look at it and there might be some like magic, some Brady magic that goes in there, like the charisma effect,
Oh yeah.
a charisma of just winning. And it's I wouldn't say it's luck because luck plays a part in some things, right? Luck definitely plays a part here and there when it goes into it. And it's not like Tom Brady is just getting lucky. I mean, he's delivering. I mean, he's one of the most accurate passers. He's got the prototypical body, I think, for what you want in a quarterback. Not too tall, not short, very quick release, very accurate, command of the offense, understands what
Respect to the
defense are
team.
doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
respect to the team, right? I mean, you can't not. Not too loud, but not quiet.
Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right on that. He's and you could see it on the field on Sundays. It's just, I mean, the guy's special. It's just enough to say, or just enough to get in your ass for a second, but not bad enough that the guy's going to be like, oh, well, screw Tom. I don't care. Like
yeah.
he knows how to walk that line.
And the funny thing too is those guys that are playing in Tampa, like Ndamukong Suh and Fournette, and those guys
Yeah,
who go there, Troy Brown, not Troy Brown, Antonio Brown, those
yeah.
guys, they're going there because they respect Tom Brady and they know, and Gronk too, for all intents and purposes, even though they're probably very good friends. They're going there because Tom Brady's there and because they know that this is a guy that could potentially take them to win a ring.
Yeah.
I will tell you this though, and I think this is something I've seen many times throughout my 41 years, about how at the end of their career, the guys who were just studs, 5, 6 years ago, are then going to try to go on to that one super team to try to win the Super Bowl, win the championship, and it really doesn't happen all that often. I would say
Yeah.
like the Lakers did it last year with LeBron in that weird COVID year. But I mean, you look at some of these other teams, like the Lakers tried to do it with Karl Malone and Gary Payton, and they couldn't do it. And there's just like it's just rare that, especially rare that quarterbacks do it. Like when Joe Montana went to the Chiefs, although that was it was a different situation, but
Yeah.
Joe Montana and the Chiefs wasn't able to do it. It's so rare that a quarterback can go and transform a team from average to Super Bowl winners that quickly.
Let me ask you this: Tom Brady, right?
Yep.
So when I described his career earlier, who does that remind you of? Was doubted, barely got onto the college team, had to fight his way to a starting position.
Yep. Quarterback that
Now,
that wears orange or brown.
yeah, I mean, obviously, Baker was a better prospect. He went and won in the draft, but just the journey
Yeah,
to
and
to get to the point of being at the top of your game, so to speak. But
right.
I mean, it's the writing's on the wall there, you
I,
know.
I think Baker's probably going to have more of a career that's going to be similar to Breeze than Brady. Um,
Yeah, I agree with that.
and I think that Breeze the same way was kind of mismanaged, in San
Yeah, San
Diego,
Diego.
and then when he went to New Orleans, and then Sean Payton, the quarterback Sean Payton, got a hold of him and was like, dude, this guy's got the skill set. We just got to put some weapons around him. And I mean, he didn't have elite weapons. He didn't have like, the best weapons in the world, but just enough. And he was so damn good. And they built that offense around him that they made it possible. And I really think that's kind of what Stefanski's doing.
Yeah.
They messed with Baker enough his first couple of years. He had to unlearn bad habits, which in the beginning of this year, you and I noticed quite a bit. Is he going to step up in the pocket? Is he going to leave? Is he going to always run out to the right? How accurate can he be? Is he going to force the ball? And pre OBJ injury, we saw a lot of those bad habits, and we're like, where is it? Like, when is he going to get out of it? Then OBJ goes down, and I mean, magically, you get this other Baker Mayfield, right? And it's a new thing. And I think a lot of that was because they were forced as a team and as a coaching staff to go, okay, we don't just have the superstar athlete as a crutch. We have to play as a team and really make this happen together. And when you had Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt both healthy on the field at the same time, and you had Baker playing to the way that he's been able to play, you've got a winning combination. I do think Baker, obviously, from the physical standpoint, he's not the tallest guy in the world, so he's not going to be able to sit back there and oversee the offense like you watch Josh Allen do in the playoffs. He can't do that. But he, with his physical limitations that he has, I'd rather have his physical limitations and yet still the exceptional physical skills as well. Like
You know,
his arm strength's unbelievable.
yeah, and I would I only say this because you brought up Josh Allen, and I was talking about it on Twitter the other day, and I got a little bit of heat for it, but I truly believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And as good as Josh Allen's stats were this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having being, I guess I should say, being more under the microscope as we came down the wire trying to see, were they going to get to one spot or, uh, you know, and then the first round of the playoffs and the second round of the playoffs. The one thing that I noticed and I really feel, maybe the last, 5 or 6 games, I would say, and really culminating. It was a culmination with the Bills or I'm sorry, the Chiefs game. Is this dude has no football awareness, and I just don't know. It, sometimes you just can't teach that. Like it's just the guy is just always fighting to hold on to the ball in the hopes that he's going to make one last play. And in turn, I mean, you're taking 14, 15, 20-yard sacks and just throw the ball away. And I it got worse as the more games I saw as we were coming down the stretch. Uh, and then you couple that with he wasn't very accurate. Those accuracy issues were starting to show up a little bit in the past few weeks.
Yep.
And I mean, I personally believe, and I don't want to derail where we were going, but and somebody said it earlier. I think I made a note of it. It was Stomping Peak earlier in the show said he made a comment in the chat that said, I think we're the second best team in the AFC, and I
Mhm.
got to tell you, if you look at us, the Bills, and the Chiefs, I mean, we're missing a lot of horses on our defense. We really are, and we're missing OBJ, but it's funny how we were sort of matched up better to beat the Chiefs or to at least hang with the Chiefs with what we had. So that's only gonna, you know, get exponentially better once we fill in some gaps in the offseason. And you look at the Bills, and I don't care if it would have been in Buffalo or whatnot. You know, I think that we would have easily handled the Bills, and I don't think that the Bills, the way they're built right now, is really a worry for us. I look at making some upgrades, and I'm excited about next year because I think that there is no question that we could be in the AFC Championship game. And I think these guys prove that.
Oh
And
yeah.
and 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 again with makeshift. I mean, our linebacking crew. I mean, and we talk about it on this show all the time. They were the PFF grades. A lot of them were in the top 20, but not playing like very very good football. And I mean, you have Sandejo back there, so and a banged up Harrison. So uh, yeah, I mean, I think that we are really set up and a nice solid draft. We There's no doubt that I think we're right back, in the postseason and challenging for the crown.
Yeah, I think that if you look at how we played against the Chiefs versus the Bills and how they played against them, the Bills looked overmatched the entire game.
Yeah, it's like you
Yeah,
shut down Diggs and that's it.
yeah, that was it. They didn't have any other weapons. They had no way to respond. Their defense started to look very susceptible. And I mean, Pat Mahomes put that game away in the third quarter,
Yeah,
right? So that was that. And the one team in the AFC that I'm most worried about from a matchup perspective is the Ravens because of the wild card factor with Lamar Jackson. That is the one. That's the one team, and the Bills once again showed us how to beat the Ravens. It's not easy though because you have to be very patient to be able to do it, but you have to be able to put Lamar into a situation where he has to be a quarterback, not a run pass, read option guy. If you make him be a quarterback, that is his weak point, right? So you have to be able to do that, but it's so hard to do that to the Ravens because they run the ball so well and they're just soaking up clock and then they go down and score and then you're like, okay, well now we got to go down and score. We're playing traditional football. They're playing a different game, the Ravens. Different game than any other team out there in the NFL, really even maybe even in college
let me ask you this:
because of
do
that.
you think that, because I sort of have a feeling that my answer is yes, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to talk about they're hyping up Zavon Collins in the chat. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, but my question to you is, going into this offseason, knowing that in order to, and we touched a little bit on it last week, going into the offseason, knowing that Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews are not gonna, and Willie Snead's not gonna cut it for you. You need a legit one like an Allen Robinson type. I think that in order to lure someone in from free agency of that caliber, they are going to have to start committing to running an actual offense, and Lamar is going to have to drop back a little bit more than he does, and they're going to have to tailor things a little bit differently. Otherwise, I got to tell you, I don't as frightening and as scary we were like, oh, Lamar Jackson's coming, they don't. If they still stay, if I'm sorry, if they still play the same style that they played last year, I'm not worried about them, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah. It's it's just the way that they play against us that bothers me. I mean, we haven't been able to establish consistently. I mean, we got blown out once last year, once this year, and then we couldn't win that last game at home, in the shootout. And that's the part of it and we had them against the ropes, just like we had the Chiefs against the ropes. We really did. We had a chance to beat the Chiefs. We just didn't have the defense couldn't stop Chad Henne. And to me, if you can't stop Chad Henne, you're not going to stop Tom Brady. You're not going to stop Aaron Rodgers, right? So this just wasn't in the cards for us this year. And I don't know about you, but I had a lot of people that were that had reached out to me and were like, "Man, you guys did really great this year. Like, I hope you're feeling okay." And I'm like, I mean, I don't think we didn't overachieve. We achieved. We
Yeah,
didn't underachieve. We didn't overachieve. We achieved what we had to achieve, and then we had the sugar on top by beating the Steelers twice in a row and knocking them out of the playoffs. And then we got to go and see how good we really were by going to Kansas City and playing against the Super Bowl champions. And I think the fact that we didn't get like our bell rung, like like we did against the Ravens first game of the season, it showed how much growth we had, and it gives us that confidence to go into next season
hmm
and go, we don't have to be afraid of anybody.
yeah,
This isn't it. We are now on the map, right? And
agreed.
and to go back to what you were saying about about the Ravens and being able to attract talent and in order to do that, I think you're 100% right. I mean, you know, Willie Snead's not is not going to be the answer for you. You're not going to
No,
get an Allen Robinson going there. You might get
no,
Allen Robinson to go to Jacksonville
absolutely.
with Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence, but you're not going to get him to go to sit there and block down field, all day for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, no,
You're just not.
I totally agree with you. Absolutely. And we were talking. This is a good little segue, but I know Matt's really hyping up Collins in the chat, and I like Collins. I like his game. I think he's a fabulous linebacker. But if you were first off, the one thing that we do know is this front office doesn't value the linebacker position like me, you, and the rest of the fans on Twitter
Which
and
could be their downfall.
Twitch and whatever. But if they are, in my opinion, there's two guys that if somehow you were able to go up and get. Now, Micah Parsons is not going to happen because he's going to go in the top 3 or 4, so that you're not getting up to get him. Uh, Owusu Karamoa, uh, I like him. He's from Notre Dame. The guy runs a 4.440. I mean, that is speed. Speed kills. He's elite. You could plug him in at the will, and
I just have a
away you
bad taste in
go.
my mouth for like Notre Dame linebackers
No, no, I get it,
and Notre
but
Dame players in general.
yeah, he's a different breed. This kid, you plug him in at the will, and he can cover receivers, tight ends, whatever, and he's fast and he's elite. I think after those two guys,
Hmm.
then when you look at the linebacker position, uh, the speed drops off tremendously. And you know, I rather me personally, and especially the way the front office thinks, I think at 26, if you're not able to get one of those, and I take Micah Parsons off the list because there's no way that would ever happen. But maybe there's a chance, uh, you know, that Karamo would get close there and they could jump up a few spots. I highly doubt it. But anyway, the point I'm making is I think down at 26, then you start looking at guys that are secondary guys that are elite, when I should say with elite speed. Like you look at Caleb Farley from your neck of the woods,
You want a safety? Yep.
6'2", 197. 4.35 40 press man cover guy. You could leave him on one side. You don't have to worry about him. You got Denzel on the other side. You don't have to worry about him. Um, I think that's like where you might see, where they go at that point. But and the other thing, not to go away from from the defensive side over to the offensive side, but again, and I told you when we opened the show, like I want somebody with cheetah speed. So Rondell Moore from Purdue, he's a small guy. He had some durability issues, um, but I mean, you that's like a late day two kind of guy, maybe a 4.33 40. That opens up some big things. So I've been diving in pretty good, and it's only going to continue to go. The Senior Bowl week is going on, and uh, the one thing I do want to say, Mike, before I turn it back over to you is I went back, and I'm going to do it again. But I went back and I watched all the offensive plays from Week 1 against the Ravens
Mhm.
until OBJ went down with his knee injury. And this is all I'm going to say. He was open early and often. The problem was we just weren't clicking yet. Baker was not Baker yet. He was still trying to figure out himself, and he was still trying to figure out the offense. And I got to tell you, if when he comes back, right? Depending on, I mean, if you look at the rehab, I mean, I don't see, and you and I talk about it all the time. I mean, he should be ready for training camp, but
He will
whenever
be.
he comes back, now where we are with that offense and where how Baker is comfortable, him and Stefanski have that trust level together. Baker got his swagger back. You were, and there's no forcing. There's no, I mean, when I tell you he was open often, early and often, he was open. So the only thing that he will do to this offense when he gets back is just take us to the next level. And you and I talked about it. I still believe OBJ is here. We're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and for anybody out there who's saying we're gonna trade OBJ or keep or should we keep OBJ? Like, guys, we're not getting rid of OBJ. We're not getting rid of Jarvis Landry. I know that they make up quite a bit of our cap.
So what, right? It's not our money.
Yeah, I don't care. It's not gonna make a difference if I'm, you know, it's not gonna raise the price of the hats that I buy or anything like that. It's to make it one iota to me. Spend the money. You can't spend the money and get non-elite players. Jarvis Landry in the beginning of the season was like not even. I mean, he wasn't getting in the end zone at all. At the end of the season, he won us games. OBJ won us games, guys, and you can't give up that talent. On top of it, OBJ has a knee injury and is getting up there towards the late end of his career. I mean, we're not. We gave up draft picks and players for him. He was part of the plan. You don't bail on somebody like that who doesn't give you a reason. Now, if OBJ was not showing up to practice or being a dick to the other players or just being a distraction and being terrible, OBJ has not been that.
No,
He's
not
been
at
a
all.
good. I mean, he has bad body language when we're losing, and I don't like that at all. I don't like how because it festers and to quote Jarvis, that stuff is contagious. Like if you're at it just you don't want to allow that to linger when you have that kind of thing. You need a leader and you need guys like Stefanski who's like you could be winning by 60 points or losing. He's going to give you the same attitude. You know, OBJ wears his emotions on his facial expression and his body like way too much, way more than I'd like to see out of a star receiver. But we wouldn't be able to trade him for anything. Coming off of a knee injury, like end of his career, and a bit of a the celebrity type player. I mean, we're not going to get a first round draft for that.
No, you know what, Mike, and I'll be honest, and everybody, out in Twitter world or whatever world are living in this pipe dream that 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 they're that you're trading New York Giant OBJ of 2 3 years ago for a first round draft pick. Not happening. OBJ of the year 2021 at 28 years old, I think he is now.
Gonna be
Going to be 20,
29.
29, I think. Coming off of an ACL tear. I mean, you would be if you were that team, you would be taking a chance and trading for the hope, right? The hope that you would be getting that OBJ back. So you're looking maybe a third or fourth round draft pick
And
that
and and
nobody's giving up a 2 or a 1. I can tell you that right
and
now.
consider this. OBJ consistently has had durability issues over the last few years. This isn't the first injury he's had, number one. Number two, you're still going to have to pay him.
Right.
He's even if you're giving up that third round draft pick, it's not like you're going to pay him, $750,000 like a third round pick would make. You got to pay him $15 million or whatever he's going to make. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to make that type of investment unless they feel like they're one wide receiver away. And I can't name a single team that would say the one position where if they just got better wide receiver, they'd be in the Super Bowl. There's not one team out there that would do that. It's just
I can't think of one.
It's not like that. So OBJ's not going anywhere, guys. Jarvis Landry's not going anywhere. If anything, they one or both of them would restructure their contract to make it more attractive for other people to come and open up more cap room. But guys, we have cap room.
Yeah,
We got $30 million in cap room.
Yeah, and we don't even know what the new cap's going to be. So, and to your point on OBJ, to follow up what you were saying, is I think like the second day of the new league year, or it's the third day of the new league. I don't know what it is, but it's day 1 through 3.
Mm-hmm.
He has guaranteed money coming to him, so he's not going anywhere. And it's funny because I don't know where like the Mary Kay Cabots of the world, and I can't believe I said her name because what I think, but or any of these people that keep throwing these trade rumor. Look, we've been around for a long time. We've seen many a rodeo, and we've seen the coach speak or the GM speak. I mean, Dave Gettleman. Yeah, we signed OBJ long term. We have no plans of trading him or whatever. But if you listen to Barry and you listen to Kevin Stefanski, this guy's not going anywhere. I mean, he is a major plan going forward. You don't run a successful football team by running solid, almost. I mean, obviously OBJ was elite. Will he still be elite? I think that we'll still get a couple more elite years out of him, but you don't subtract guys like that. I mean, if he was a cancer in the locker room, that's one thing. But these guys that are on this team, they love OBJ. The coaching staff loves OBJ. You see articles that are coming out about last year where he was trying to broker peace between, the play callers and Baker and everybody. You're just wasting your breath talking about OBJ going play. He is not. The only place he's going is back to Lou Groza Boulevard.
Yeah, and you look at it on top of that too. If you get rid of OBJ, what does that do to like really the heart and soul of your team is Jarvis Landry?
Yeah, and you can't trade. You can't trade Jarvis because
you can't trade Jarvis and keep OBJ. You can't trade OBJ and keep Jarvis because Jarvis, although they'll sit there and be like, we know this is a business, we understand this, but I think Dorsey went after OBJ because he had Jarvis Landry and he was trying to put together that magic,
Yeah.
And so they're not going to ruin that.
No, and you don't get to this point where you brought a guy in like Jarvis. There, and we know this. Money matters everywhere. Money is king. However, there's some times and there's some situations where, it's not, and there's exceptions to the rule. And I believe that Jarvis Landry is that exception because you do not take a guy who it is known throughout the organization, throughout the NFL Football League, that Jarvis Landry was the piece that was brought in to make a culture change, right? And there were so many guys that in past regimes that was supposed to be. Jarvis came in and he did it.
Yeah.
So they are not, you're not going to jettison the guy that turned the culture around and that a lot of these guys look up to on this team. It's not going to happen. He's not going anywhere. And I guarantee you that he will probably restructure and they'll just move the money around and, it won't count for the cap this year. Jarvis is not going anywhere until now, if we had made like 2 or 3 Super Bowl runs at this point, then I could see how maybe we would cut bait or cut salary. But where we are today and this team, no chance.
And
No
and
chance.
and if you look at it, there's a couple of other things too. I think Jarvis and OBJ are both motivated.
Yep.
They both got a little taste of what it would be like to be in the playoffs, like the real playoffs.
Mhm.
OBJ didn't get to experience that with the team, and I know that was killing him. Jarvis got to experience it. I don't know how many times Jarvis has even ever been in the playoffs his entire career. Like I don't know if this is the first time.
Yeah.
So these are the guys that are like, hey, we have unfinished business here, and I think that they want to do that. I could see them retiring as Cleveland Browns. I think
Yeah,
on top of it
certainly.
as well, from the fans' perspective, and and this organization, the Browns are, I think the Browns are one of the hottest tickets, not just like a ticket from the stand, but like look at the ratings. The Browns rating, the people want to watch the Cleveland Browns. Right? This isn't the Deshaun Kaiser Cleveland Browns. This is a new era, and Baker said it, like, this is the new standard. We are not we're not going to be losers anymore.
No, and let
It's
me ask you
over.
this, Mike, not to cut you off, but what has Jarvis Landry done that shows you that he doesn't belong
Yeah.
on the football field at wide receiver
No,
he's in
it's
the prime of his career.
yeah, it's these guys who are like, just lazy boy sitting beer drinking GMs, not really having a fluid understanding about like really what it is about team building, about cap, like any, like, to be like, we need to cut OBJ because we'll save $12 million. What are you going to do with that $12 million to replace OBJ or
Correct.
replace Jarvis Landry? What do you, what is do you have a solution, or do you just think that saving money somehow gets you wins in the NFL?
And
Because
clearly it doesn't, because we've
it
seen
doesn't.
it.
Look at the Saints. The Saints are over on the luxury tax. They're paying. And guess what? They're winning, and they've been winning for a very long time. Like, I do think that it's a business. They shouldn't overpay players just to do that. The Bengals have done that in the past. It's like, it's ugly to see that happen. But we got some guys that are going to have an opportunity to get paid. Baker's going to get paid. Nick Chubb's going to get paid. Miles has already gotten paid. Denzel will.
You want to hear a take that I would probably get slaughtered on, but I don't know. I'll just throw it out there. Who do you think is more important to this team, Mike, for the play on the field and the psyche in the locker room? Right?
Okay.
Jarvis Landry or Denzel Ward? Who is more durable?
Oh, Jarvis Landry.
Jarvis Landry.
Without a doubt.
When Jarvis Landry isn't on the field, which is never except for that one game, and the Browns passing attack is horrible. We'll just use that one game because the guy is. I mean, that's my whole point. He doesn't miss games. So you look at Denzel. Denzel missed 4 games, 5 games, or whatever it was, and the defense played just fine. Now, do I not think that Denzel is an elite cover guy? Yes, I do think that, but we have seen without him on the field, Matt Bernard, that they can still cover guys in the secondary and win games.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, I think that if we can keep Denzel healthy, which has been, not possible so far, If we can, I think what we have to do, a couple things. I think what we have to do first and foremost is upgrade positions of need. Linebacker is a position of need. Safety is a position of need. Um, we have some of those issues that are like glaring needs, right? And then after that is where, and maybe you can do it in free agency. Free agency, you got to recruit.
Right.
And you got to open the wallet.
And I know in the chat they're saying that we can't cover without Ward. I'm I'm not saying that you're just gonna pretend that that you're gonna go play that corner spot, Mike. What I'm saying is, and what I was getting at with that point was Jarvis Landry for what he brings to the team in the locker room and his durability and his ability on the field is worth every penny of that money. Then you make the argument on the other side, hey, I can get a Caleb Farley at 26, right? That is a great press man cover guy, and he's going to be on a rookie deal, and I don't have to pay $30 million or whatever it is to Denzel. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen or that's what I'm asking to happen, but when we talk about why Jarvis doesn't deserve his money or the opportunity to,
Yes.
still earn that money, but move it around. You can't compare the two.
No. No. It's just annoying to that people are out there writing articles and drumming up conversation about this. It's just, and the good thing about our team is I think they know that the media is just garbage in Cleveland, and to not even take them seriously. And it's like, it's just so unfortunate that they have to sit there and to answer the questions from those clowns at the end of the game,
Yeah.
because it's got, I would have a hard time respecting them and respecting their questions to even answer them. But they do a good job of that, and they're just like, okay, for 15 minutes I'll answer your stupid questions, right? But going back to Caleb Farley, I watched a lot of him play, and I can tell you he is an elite athlete. From the second I saw him,
Yeah.
I was like, that guy's good. He's gonna be he's now, was he gonna be first round draft pick good? I don't know. I didn't see that. But then I saw him as like, oh, he'll be in the league. Him, mid round, third, fourth
Yeah.
round draft. He'll play, because we've had people go into the league, and I'm like, man, those were the mediocre player starters on our team went to the league and ended up doing really, really well. And I'm like, really? Dwayne Brown, Daryl Tapp, Cam Chancellor type guys who just went hog wild in the NFL.
Yeah.
But Caleb, I don't I'm being pragmatic about this. I'm telling you, like, I think he's gonna be a good player, but is he gonna be, make an impact year one type player? He doesn't have that much football experience. He took this year off. So what, 2 years experience, and a ton of like measurables. Is that enough? I don't know. I mean, if the Browns got him, would I be upset? No, I would not be upset. But the reality from what I've seen, unless there's like some massive improvements that you can get on, by watching film and by working out in the weight room and getting ready for the combine, if you can turn that into like football experience and that kind of thing, because I mean, I saw him get burned too. I watched all those games, just like just like Kendall Fuller. Remember Kendall Fuller when he came out of Virginia Tech, and he,
Yep.
God, I can't remember where he went to first, and then he went to Washington. And I'm like, yeah, Kendall's good. Is he elite? I don't know. A lot of the the last guy that I saw that came out of Virginia Tech who was elite defensive player was D'Angelo Hall. He was the guy I was like, D'Angelo Hall is legitimately going to be that good in the pros. But some of the other guys, like the Edmond brothers, okay, fine, good players, fine, starters in the NFL. Then you had some other guys like Jaron Hosley.
Yeah. I think for me this year, your I think the three guys that you'll see that will go in the first round is and man, if we would only be able to swing Patrick Surtain, but Patrick Surtain will be the first corner off the board, I believe, and then you're going to have Farley is going to come off the board in the
Mhm.
first round, and I believe that the kid from South Carolina, Joe Horn's son, uh, J.C. Horn, I think is going to be
How much of how
your
much of the
third
Patrick
corner.
Surtain is the name? Is he that
And
good, or
he
is it like
no,
the name?
he's no, he's elite. He's elite.
Okay.
Fast, cover guy, can tackle. Um, yeah, I mean, if for some strange reason that he wound up at 26, which we won't even wind up at 9, I don't think. But I'm on the phone telling him to run the card up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I was telling you earlier, like my son was played in a fantasy or a flag football league,
Yeah,
with Charles Woodson's son, and I just sat there and I was like, I mean, they could have just heaved the ball to him every play and he would have scored
yeah,
a touchdown, half of the plays. I mean, it was you could tell of the light year difference that Woodson's kid has over just. I mean, he was the best player in the league easily, and then there's some other really good athletes, but he was different. He looked different. Everything about him looked different. Um, and so yeah, there is something to be said about really elite athletes' kids. Um, so that I get it, and the bloodlines are good. I just wonder, like, is he as good as that really, or is it something else? I don't know, but if I believe what you're saying, and it's obviously he didn't do bad going to it was Alabama, right?
Patrick Surtain.
Yeah,
Yeah, Surtain was Alabama, and then Horn's kid was South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah,
Well,
man,
I,
you know what though?
here's one thing. Here's the only thing I do want to say because I don't want to forget
Yeah,
this.
no, go.
We do have to address linebacker, and we have to address the secondary. I almost don't even care like what order. It's best player on the board, right? Best linebacker if it's there, or at best corner or safety. Just give them. We need them. Let's go.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I couldn't agree more. I just,
but I will tell you this.
yeah,
And here's my point. I think that where we are, roster wise, we are in a position to to take a swing at like this year's DK Metcalf. The guy they were like, well, I mean, man, on paper and he looks the part, but durability issues, maybe something that's missing there. But man, did when I heard the last name Metcalf, I was like, yeah, Browns, go. Just like Clay Matthews, when Clay Matthews was coming
yeah,
out, I heard the name, I'm like, just go, pull the trigger, go.
Mike, and that was the year, Mike, that we kept drafted, that we
Going
talked
back.
about this a couple years ago, or a couple years ago, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, the
That was
Mangini
the year we took
bullshit.
Alex Mack, and they kept dropping back, and I kept thinking to myself, they're going to take Clay Matthews Jr.
Yeah,
Nope.
I wanted him bad. I was
Yeah.
like, give me Clay Matthews, and they didn't do it, and God knows. But so I think we're going to be able to be really risky and go after guys that maybe had a little something out there
Yeah.
that they fall out of the first round or the second round, but you've got first round talent in a guy in the third round
Yeah.
and
And
fourth round.
and I mean, they could totally surprise us, and there could be like a Christian Barmore from Alabama, three technique guy, big time disruption, vertical kind of three technique tackle that they could value really high, and they could go D line at 26. So I in my heart of hearts, I know they're gonna go with a secondary pick there. I as much as I want them to take a linebacker, I don't even know, to be quite honest with you, if at 26, after the guys that I talked about, if if the value is there, and you know what I mean, and what they're looking for in terms of a solid speed linebacker. I don't know if that guy is going to be there at 26. Again, I
Yeah.
wish there was a way that we could get Karamoa, but I think he goes way, way earlier. And again, I don't think that we, and I hope they prove me wrong, but I don't think this front office thinks about linebackers the way, we think about linebackers. I think in their mind, they're looking for a big physical safety type that can match up on the tight end
It
and
just comes
and
down to this: is there somebody in the draft, because in the third, fourth, fifth round, that's out there that we think is going to be better than Mac Wilson?
you know what's crazy, Mike, is I was looking at this earlier. Um, Mac Wilson's a fast dude. He hasn't been able to put it together, and I know you. I feel like even though we get on him a little bit, I feel like you are a secret Mac Wilson believer because every time we talk about him, and I don't know, maybe you realize it, maybe you don't,
Mm-hmm.
but you always talk about how young he is, right?
Yep.
And who knows? Maybe the light bulb does go on. I think it was you that was saying that Nick Saban wanted to keep him another year, and he felt he left early, right? Weren't you saying that
Yeah,
a couple of weeks ago?
he's 22 years old. He's about to turn 23 in February,
Yeah,
and you're right. We drafted him, I think, because he's super athletic, and we're getting him on the cheap, where we got him.
yeah,
And the next year, would we have been able to get Mac Wilson in the fifth round?
yeah.
Probably not, right?
Probably not.
Probably
Yeah,
not. So I am a Mac Wilson fan. I do. I don't know if I'm a believer yet, but I do. There are elements of him that I do like a lot. And
yeah.
that
I agree.
his rookie season, that preseason where he was intercepting passes and taking them to the house, I'm like, we just got a stud. And then we never saw that production,
Nope.
and we didn't see that football awareness, right? And then we saw some of the knucklehead stuff, and then we saw some of the immaturity on Twitter, and those are the certain things that you got to get out of your own head, dude. Like
Yeah,
if you're on one of the lessons you could probably learn from Sendejo is don't go on Twitter. Don't even go out there and look at it, because it's just going to get these uninformed, you know, guys who are out there that are just going to, the guys that want to trade Jarvis Landry or cut OBJ. You're going to get those type of people that are just going to tell you you suck and you suck. And not to say that we were saying that he sucked, but like there's a lot of people, myself included, who was ragging on Sendejo for a long time. But then it was you that was like, hey, look, he wasn't brought in here to start. He was brought in here to be a backup, and Grant Delpit was the guy who we really wanted. So we should really blaming Grant Delpit for his injury, which you obviously can't do. But
yeah.
you look at it and you go, you know, Sendejo, I will tell you, at the end of the season, at the very end of the season, when we needed him the most, did not disappoint us.
No,
He really didn't.
he didn't, and an interesting little tidbit, if you will. So I since we were talking about it, I don't know why, but I clicked on the PFF grades and what I found interesting, if you look at Mac Wilson, right?
Mm-hmm.
He actually improved towards the end of the year. And when I say improved, I mean we'll use it, loosely. But if you remember, he was hovering at like 82 of 85 linebackers, if you
Yeah.
remember. And to his credit, he finished 74 of 85. He had a 41.9 defensive grade. He had a 37.7 run defense grade, a 77.2 pass rush grade, and a coverage grade of 49.3. Now, the reason why I'm throwing these stats out there is so you look at Mac Wilson, fifth round linebacker in the 2019 draft. He's 22. He's going to be 23 years old in February. All right. And then you go down to number 84 of 85 linebackers. So out of all the PFF grades, there's 85 linebackers that they
Are you
score.
going to tell me it's Joe Schobert?
No, this is better than this. Ready? So I look at the 84th linebacker, right? And these numbers, right? We'll do the numbers first.
Okay.
So remember, Mac was a 49.7. This particular kid, 29.7 defensive grade, 29 run defense grade, 71.6 pass rush grade, which that's his saving grace, but still nowhere near Mac's 77.6. And then a coverage grade of a 30, right? So 84, 85. You
It's
know
like
who that?
it's like it's just it's proof. It's analytical proof that they're measuring here that
Yeah.
you're not that good.
And you ready for this? This kid was the 28th selection of the first round in the 2020 draft to your Baltimore Ravens, Patrick Queen. So he was a can't miss kind of guy, right? Everybody, I mean, I remember on draft day, we're like, oh man, I wish we would have got Patrick Queen or whatever. But there you go. So our fifth round linebacker of 2 years ago is playing 20 points higher than the Baltimore Ravens first round draft pick and their linebacker you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe maybe there is some hope for Mac Wilson, and hopefully there's no hope for Patrick Queen, and
I mean, my thoughts
we
are
can run him over 2 times a year.
my thoughts on Mac Wilson are this: he's a 5th-round draft pick. He's not that expensive. He's young, and I don't think he hit his ceiling yet. That's my thoughts on Mac. I think this is the year that he's got to prove it though. This is it. This is the last one. We're not gonna continue. And he lost his job at the end of the season.
Yeah.
He lost that time on the field. I know he played a little bit at the end that last game, but he lost time on the field because he wasn't producing. And that is we're not gonna give, like, he won't get another contract after that. So this is the year for Mac Wilson, and depending upon what he does in the offseason and how he comes into to training camp, that is going to determine if he even makes the team.
Yeah.
Right,
And
we've cut bait on guys. The other thing I do think about Mac is that he may be a little bit immature on the Twitter stuff, but he's not like an Antonio Callaway immature.
No.
Right.
But what's interesting, Mike, is it's funny because really, I mean, I think BJ Goodson will be back, and I don't know if Malcolm Smith will be back, but that's your Mike linebacker. So God, if we were able to if we were up further in the draft, and I know we don't want to be because down low means we're winning, but man, you could just take Micah Parsons and just put him right into your Mike linebacker spot, and you don't even have to worry about that position for 10 years. But the interesting part that I find is you got Taki over in the Sam.
3rd-round draft pick.
Yep. And then when you talk about Will linebacker, it's Phillips and it's Mac Wilson. So that's almost like a Hunger Games thing
and
there.
Phillips, I think Phillips, if he can be healthy the whole year, I don't think we've seen the best of Phillips either. To be honest, I think he has some upside and ceiling that he hasn't hit, and he's also young. He's another young guy. So it's gonna be now. Have I seen elite Hall of Fame out of these guys like we've seen out of like Nick Chubb at this point? No. But can they be players? Can they be players, yay or nay, is the question, right? That is the key. And I think that is what's going to have to be determined on him. But I like what you were saying about our front office not valuing the linebacker position. If they go back and look at and they have to go back and watch the games and look at their quality control guys, the grades that they're giving internally, and then matching that maybe with third party validation, because that's all PFF is, just third party validation. They know they have more data about Mac Wilson than we do, and Taki and these guys,
Yeah.
and more than what they're seeing on the tape from PFF, right? So, but they're looking at all that stuff and they got to put that together and go, hey, is there a free agent out there that we can plug and play, or is there a rookie that we can grab and plug and play that's actually going to give us production year one? Rookies, other than first round and maybe second round draft picks, very rarely do they work out year one and make a big impact year one. It takes 2 or 3 years. And at some point we're going to get into this to the point of, do we have 2 or 3 years to develop a guy? Because 2 or 3 years, I mean, you need to produce your first couple of years, A, to have longevity, but B, that's when you're the cheapest. So they want you to produce that much when you're early and young in your career. They don't want to have to wait to your second contract to start seeing production. But you're not getting that big second contract unless you're giving them production in the beginning. And I think that's where like a guy like David Njoku is going to run into.
Yeah.
Right? You know, we haven't seen Kittle and Kelsey and Mark Andrews level production for a guy that we've given first round money to. Right? So that's just needs to be said.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting too is usually like when you look at Taki and he's the Sam backer and the Sam backer is has a lot of tight end coverage kind of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the weakest part of his game. And his run defense is, I mean, through the roof. I mean, Taki finished with an 89.3 run grade.
That's got to be one of the top linebackers. It has to be.
I'll be honest with you. The only linebacker that has a higher run defensive grade than Taki is Bobby Wagner. And but what I found interesting was then you look at like Malcolm Smith, and Malcolm Smith was really good in coverage, and he was so in run defense. And I know Malcolm's old, and it's tough for him to run with the guys. But it's almost like if you didn't know the guys' ages, you would look at their PFF stats.
Flip them.
Yeah, and I'd be like, okay, what do you mean he's playing Sam and he's playing Mike? Like I would flip those two if I didn't know, the measurables, if you will.
Well, I think the couple good thing is we'll probably get Smith at least one more year, and he was serviceable, and we need the depth anyway. We need the depth, and we'll get B.J. Goodson's going to get better. I don't think we've seen the ceiling on him. Can he be elite? I don't know. He's going to have to make some plays, right? But Taki, that interception he took to the house, man, I couldn't have been happier for him. I could not have been. That was the moment. That was the play that I think turned it around for probably Taki's career.
That was defining because I agree with you, Mike. Because it was almost like that was the confidence boost that we saw. Because we talked about it every week. Like the Wednesday show, I think you joked about it. Should have been called the Linebacker Show.
Yeah.
We knew their PFF stuff inside and out. And I got to go back through the notes because I know I probably have this stuff written down, and there was no way that he was even close to an 89.3 in a run defense.
No, we could just go back to our shows.
Yeah.
And because it was. I mean, we were ragging on these dudes, and the one picture of them like jumping on the sidelines in the rain, and I was like, these guys, man, I don't know. But then Taki takes that one play to the house. It's almost like, I don't know if when you play basketball, you hit that 1 3-pointer and you're like, okay, I'm feeling it now. Yeah. And that's how it is with Taki. He just, the confidence was there. The team was like, okay, this guy. I mean, you take it just like Ronnie Harrison. You take a ball to the house. I mean, you only get a couple of those a year. Some defenses don't score at all. And to bring a ball back in a critical moment like that you are helping your team win. You put points on the board on defense. Your job is not to do that. Your job is to not allow the other team to put points on the board, not vice versa. So it's like hitting the lottery when you get guys who can do that stuff. Yeah. So I think Taki's solidified himself. I think he's going to get better now. Is going into what, his third year, so
Yeah, I agree.
he's got a shot. You know, but there's room for improvement. You know what I would really love to see? I'd love to see those OBJ rehab videos with Grant Delpit. I want to see how far he's come. Greedy Williams, I mean, we've seen nothing about Greedy other than a couple tweets, and I know he was excited and he was happy for the Browns, but I mean, we lost him for the year.
Yeah.
And is he ever like does if we lost him for the season, does that mean was there a surgery he could have gotten that would have got him ready, or is it like we just got to wait and see? Like, is Greedy Williams ever going to play football again?
Speaking of the corner spot, I just have to throw this out there because I know they've been going back and forth in the chat, but let's keep in mind that Patrick Mahomes, he played like a half and then some of the third quarter, right?
Yep.
Tyreek Hill had 8 catches for 110 yards that game. Travis Kelce had 8 for 109 and a touchdown. Mecole Hardman had 4 catches for 58 yards. So Denzel on the field or not, we saw him get torched by Travis Kelce, and apparently those dudes got their catches and got their yards. So just throwing that out there in the whole grand scheme of the Denzel conversation that has been that was going and then keeps picking up steam a little here and there in the chat. And you were talking about Greedy, and I don't know if you saw this, Mike, but somebody tweeted this out the other day. Higgins was playing Call of Duty. Did you see this?
No.
And you know how these guys will just, I mean, you play the games too online and stuff, and you chit chat with everybody that that's watching on Twitch and whatnot. And he was having a conversation with a fan or whatnot, and they were talking about who's coming back or whatever. And I'm ad-libbing, but he had said something like, oh, Greedy will be back, and then he stopped and was like, well, I don't know, Greedy can't even feel his arm still, so I don't know yet. And it was talked about a little bit, but then
that's so weird. It's almost like a HIPAA violation, I feel.
Yeah, right.
But I'm sure Greedy doesn't want Higgins out there saying stuff like that because he's been so.
I didn't even think of it that way.
But I mean, obviously, but I think I just don't know if he's ever going to play again. I really don't. I think we saw the end of Greedy Williams. And as you mentioned, early on, when we first started doing this show, when we were talking about Grant Delpit, that's a ruptured Achilles tendon. That might be the hardest thing to return from.
Yeah.
You can return from knee injuries. People do it all the time. But Achilles tendon, that's a
especially
long time.
Full rupture. Like that wasn't like, it wasn't a partial. I mean, that was zip all the way up to the calf.
Yeah, I mean that is not something that's easy to come back from. So, I mean, at this point, I hope in the draft and in free agency we go out and address our biggest needs, and then with some of those later picks that we have, I hope that we go out and we take some, we play with the house's money, and we roll the dice and see if we can really hit something, on a a star player at the end of the draft. I feel like the last couple drafts, we've been fairly safe with some of the talent that we've been able to acquire or go after. A lot of these guys aren't even on the team anymore, so swing, take a swing for the fence.
Let me ask you this, Mike. There's a couple names out there, and I'll talk about one that's on the forefront for me.
Mm-hmm.
Free agent, older guy, still playing very, very good football. The team he's on, I mean, they're improving and they got a solid quarterback, but it's not like that next year they're gonna be gangbusters and take out the Bucks or or the Green Bay Packers or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing where we are now as a team, and how close we are, because we are. I mean, we got to admit that. It's weird after winning one game in 2 years and seven last year, whatever it was. And I mean, it's strange to say, but we're contenders now, and there's no question about it.
Yep.
So, can you lure like a Patrick Peterson over here on a 2-year deal, where you don't even have to worry about that guy? You throw him out on the edge and say, okay, do what you do.
I mean, on paper in a vacuum, sure. But what we've noticed over time, at least historically, what we've seen was it has been difficult to attract people to Cleveland. And I don't know if it's because it's Cleveland. It's not the sexiest place in the world, the city to go to. But or if it's maybe they didn't believe in the coaches or the team, or there wasn't enough talent. Now we've remedied that. We have the stars. We have some studs all over the place. And we're a winner now, and we have a good coach that people will believe in, and we'll have these players all talk to each other. They've got players on the team they went to college with and stuff like that. They've got people know about what's going on around the league. You just know, right?
Yeah.
You run in different circles, and you can get the down low on everything. And some of these guys, I think that's hurt us in the past in terms of when somebody comes to you and goes, "Hey, Mike, I'm thinking about coming to your company. They're making it looks like they're going to be able to make me a good offer. Does it, how are things over there? Do you like it? Are you going to be there for a while? Do you think you can win over there?" And if you got no skin in the game, if you got nothing to lose, and it's somebody who's coming to you for advice, you're going to give them the honest answer. And go, you know what? I got to tell you, I don't know what's going to happen with this Hugh Jackson guy. He hasn't been able to win. All we do is lose. It's demoralizing. The front office is a mess. They're constantly doing all this stuff. We have an owner who doesn't know what the hell he's doing. We got these ugly ass uniforms, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna skip over Cleveland." And then when we traded for Jarvis Landry, when we got Myles Garrett, when we got Baker Mayfield, those are the things that changed, and we're like, okay, now we've got some guys, and then we hit some home runs. Wyatt Teller was a home run. I mean, Wyatt Teller right now is a home run. He's going to be the guy. Remember when Joe Thomas was on the team and we had Bitonio, and we're like, yeah, Bitonio's pretty good, and like we're happy. But then we had Joe Thomas, who was just like overshadowing him.
Yep.
I feel like that's kind of how it is right now with Wyatt Teller. Like we've seen that he can play, but we have some older, more experienced guys on. We have Bitonio. Bitonio is the Joe Thomas in this particular scenario, whereas Bitonio's getting up there. Treader's getting up there. These guys aren't going to be in there forever. I think they're going to give us. I think they're probably going to give us till they're about 33, 32, 33 is when the offensive linemen, you just can't take it anymore. You know. So we have a little bit of a window, but a guy like Wyatt Teller, if he can stay healthy, and I don't think he's going to have a high ankle injury again, like whatever he had, like that's a rare injury. So if he can stay healthy, we've got one hell of a guard, and Wills is going to get better. I don't think we've seen the ceiling on Wills. We have to get more depth though. We have to, because we can't run Kendall Lamb out there again.
No.
And Nick Harris didn't show me enough. I mean, he was getting blown up. Nick Harris didn't show. I don't think Nick Harris has the body to do it in the NFL. I just don't.
You want to laugh? Totally going away from the offensive line, but just as Best Impact posted Patrick Peterson's PFF grade was exactly the same time that I went to go look at it and thought, scratch everything I just said, throw some money at Rashad Breeland and see if he'll come over.
Yeah. What was the PFF score for Peterson?
He's
55?
like the 50. Yeah, he's like the 55th rank.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna throw a bag at a guy like that.
No, but I thought Rashad Breeland he's going to be 29 when the season starts. That's a guy that might be looking for.
Yeah, I mean, 29 is 29. You can still do it. I mean, I like 26, 27. I mean, that's the age I'd like. And I agree with Stomping. that Hubbard was our depth and he tore his ACL. And God, man, Hubbard was cool too.
Yeah, he
What a
was.
great story he was. I hated him last year. I hated him last year. I was like, you got it. Like, launch him to into the sun. And then this year, man, he just like he was a different player, just like Wyatt Teller. Like Wyatt Teller out of nowhere was just like this guy who could play. Um, now is another guy that I'm looking at right now that just popped up on the screen, Rashard Higgins too. I mean,
Yeah.
Rashard Higgins is a guy that, if I'm Baker Mayfield, I'm going to the front office and saying you need to re-sign him, and you need to pay him market value, because he's a guy that I need, and they should be able to look at that and go, okay, yeah, I mean that should be an endorsement for him.
I can't even talk straight. I'm interested to see what kind of money he's looking for,
Higgins.
meaning Higgins. Yeah,
I
it's just so funny. We have, I mean, when you look at the wide receiver position,
Mhm.
and I know I mean, I want to get a guy that, like I said, that has some elite speed later in the draft, and like I was talking about, Rondell Moore and Wap Philor Philyor is out there as well. But with that being said, if you look at our receiving room, I mean, we're pretty deep.
Yeah, with Hodge too, and I think Hodge can play.
Yeah, I mean, you got Hodge, you've got DPJ, you've got
Yep.
OBJ, you got Jarvis, you got Higgins, you've got uh, who am I missing? Am I missing anybody, or is that everybody?
Higgins, OBJ, DPJ,
Hodge,
Jarvis.
Jarvis, five of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've got nice depth there. So I mean, if you can, get a burner in the. I mean, imagine running those jet sweeps with a 4-3 guy.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah. It'd be nice. It would
Yeah.
really be nice. And then, um, if we could, I wish we had like a real. Although I will tell you, DeErnest had some nice returns
Yeah, he did. I
from
like
from
him
the
back there.
kick from the
Yeah.
kick standpoint. I think he's motivated. He'll sacrifice the body to go get some yards, and then DPJ returning punts. My problem with the punt returner, like if you're going to be a punt returner, you have to be very sure-handed, and I think he checks the box on that. But then if you're going to take one to the house, you got to be able to burn. And I haven't seen the wheels on him. I haven't
And
seen like the burning speed yet.
he's a fast kid too. I mean, he's got some wheels. I just yeah, we haven't. I mean, I can't even remember the last time we actually. Can you remember the last time we broke a punt? I can't.
Sheehy.
Yeah, yeah. I'm in preseason. I can't remember the last time. You know what? You know what? Really, you can't. You can't let plays happen that happened to Higgins. An obvious helmet to helmet. You can't just let that happen, and then you can't a week later, review it and not fine a guy because essentially you're just saying that there was nothing wrong with the play. You can't let plays like that happen, and we see it time and time again all over the field.
Yep.
And then in the same breath, tell me that I can't see kickoff and kickoff return football like we did when we were younger. Because anymore, if next year they said we're not kicking the ball off anymore, each team just will start at the 30-yard line. Okay. That's how boring kickoff game is to me at this point.
Honestly, I just like it when they just kick it into the end zone. They just go and just take it
And
on
you,
the
and
just
yeah,
take it on the 25-yard line. Like just take it on the 25, because I honestly hated when we were taking it out. Like I felt like the last couple of years up until this year, we would never get it to the 25-yard line. And then it's not worth the extra 3 yards or 5 yards that we lost. It's not
sure.
worth it. So it's like just take it on the 25 every time. Yeah, you're not risking fumbling the ball, right? How many turnovers do you think that were avoided in the NFL because people are just not returning the ball because they're blasting it through the back of the end zone. Probably a lot, right? I mean, people fumble on kickoff returns because it's so violent. It's a violent event. Um, from a punt perspective, I don't know. I mean, I think man, that's a scary position to be. To you have so much riding on that one play,
Yeah, I've been there.
and you
Not in
could
the
get
NFL,
shelled.
obviously,
You
but
could get shelled. You got to be able to catch a ball. It could be wet. I mean, that is a scary position. But there's also glory in that position. Eric Metcalf made a career out of that. Legendary. Like, think about all the plays a guy like Eric Metcalf made in his career, all those touchdowns he had,
yeah,
catching and running. But the ones that are remembered are the punt returns.
yeah. And you can't talk about a punt return without talking about Dion Sanders.
Yeah, Dion Sanders. I mean,
Like that was an art form.
yeah, Dion Sanders and was one of those guys that was just. I mean, he was the best athlete in the NFL, I think, at one point, right?
Yeah.
In the mid '90s, Dion Sanders, he was
I
was
saw
ahead of everybody.
Oh yeah, I saw him return a punt at the old vet in the 90s. I think it was the year they won the Super Bowl. I mean, just watching the guy on the field live
Mm-hmm.
was a cheat code. He would be the equivalent to what Lamar is when he busts one of those plays and the next thing you know he's doing like Mach 3 and no one's even near him.
Yeah,
But I would venture to say more impressive than what Lamar Jackson is doing.
yeah. The fastest guy I'd ever seen in my life was Rocket Ishmael in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, he was faster than everybody by a mile, and those were the best in the All-Star game that I saw him play. Those are the best kids going to the best colleges in high school, and he was that
Yeah.
much faster than everybody else. And then when he goes to college, he's that much faster than everybody else. Rocket Ishmael was this like superhuman.
Yeah.
That kind of, and Vic too. Vic was really close. So
Yeah.
Vic was like again a speed that he had an extra gear that I just didn't understand, and the
Yeah.
acceleration. The quick agility and acceleration that Vic had. I don't know if I'm the top end. Top end guys like Tyreek Hill's a top end guy. DK
Mhm.
Metcalf's a top end guy. But Tyreek Hill's also got that shiftiness too. He's got a
Yeah.
little bit. DK doesn't have that at all. You run straight down the field as fast as possible, and he'll run faster than everybody else. Like DK is like 100-yard dash guy.
Yeah.
He's that kind of guy. That's how
Yep.
with that meme where he's tracking down that guy.
Yeah.
That's DK Metcalf right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, a lot of interesting stuff, guy. And then the other thing that I want to talk about today was
Mhm.
that the big news coming out of Seattle, where the guy beat the
Oh yeah.
living life out of his girlfriend.
Unreal.
I think it was a girlfriend. I don't know if it was a girlfriend or I don't know what the
Yeah.
relationship status was.
No,
But
I think you're right. I think it was the girlfriend. But then that quote that she had, and I'm sure you saw that.
yeah,
I mean, just
she just escaped.
yeah. I mean, what kind of? I mean, you're not a human being to do what he did, and then
Yeah, no,
to
that guy
it's just
deserves to be in prison. I
yeah.
mean,
And
he
something just came across my phone uh, about that. I think it was something about hey, Cavs are winning 90-82, end of the third. Be nice to get off the proverbial snide, as they say.
yeah,
Let's see. Oh, here it is. Former,
that Sexton kid's I think could be the real deal.
yeah, I agree. Former Seahawks offensive tackle Chad Wheeler facing 3 criminal charges, including first-degree domestic violence assault. That came through a little less than an hour ago.
Yeah, he's at this point, they're like, he's out. I guess he's out on bail.
Yeah, I just
Or
saw
bond.
that
He's out
too.
on bond, and
400,000.
I got to tell you, like his lawyer's going to go like, hey, at this point, you're not going to get off.
Right.
It now comes down to just like, how much time are you going to do? Is the question.
Yep.
And I mean, a guy like that who's not a starting offensive lineman, he's probably made some money. He could afford a lawyer, but he's not going to afford the lawyer that's going to get him out of that.
No.
So he's going to prison. It comes down to how long are you going to go, and and then you got the one guy out there. Yeah, was it Emmanuel Ochoa or Ocho? I can't.
Emmanuel Acho, or
He was a Brown. He was on the.
he was a
He
Brown.
was a
Yeah,
Brown.
Emmanuel Acho, I think his name.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and
Sounds good.
then I looked at that what he said, and I was like, hey, if you're not outraged by this or disgusted by this, you're part of the problem or something like that. I don't know, which was a weird way to say what he was trying to say. And then Joe Thomas jumps in and says, "What are you talking about? Like, everybody's disgusted by this. This is like,
Right.
it's like who's sitting there backing this guy up and saying that this or this." And then, so a couple things. Number one, there were reports that people were being vicious towards her on her social media, right?
Which,
so
how?
How? I don't know, but there were. Yeah. And then there were, the other side of it were like the people that were doing the allegedly thing, like he hasn't been convicted yet, kind of thing. Which
she's wearing beat up makeup, right?
Yeah, it's like, okay, I understand. Who knows? Literally, who knows? I mean, what if it wasn't him? What if it was somebody else? I mean, who knows? You never know. So I get that. Like, he hasn't been convicted yet. But I think the real reality to this, and I think the real reason why Ocho, or whatever the dude's last name, the reason why he said that was it's not getting publicity.
Agreed.
And that, I think, is the tragedy of this. Is like, I saw that scroll through my timeline 3 or 4 times before I even stopped to look at it, because I'm like, I don't know what this is. A Seahawk guy? Like, what did he do? I didn't even put 2 and 2 together until I saw Joe Thomas tweet about it, and then I was like, well, what does Joe Thomas have to say about this, right? And then I saw it, and then I understood. So I think what Ocho is trying to say is, how is this not being talked about? This dude beats this woman, white dude beating this black woman, trying to beat her to death or strangle her or whatever he did, and nobody's talking about it. How is that possible that this is being swept under the rug? So I get what he was saying there.
Yeah, and I mean the NFL. I mean, unless something happened within the past hour that I haven't seen, I just looked at my phone. Like, they haven't even made a statement.
Well, I mean, they could be one of the 32 people watching the Wednesday show, so they might just be like,
that's
wait till these guys are done, then we'll do our scene.
Roger Goodell, I know you're in there. Yeah. I know you're in that chat. Stop screwing us.
You're right. So, I mean, the fact that the NFL hasn't done anything, the Seahawks, I mean, I think he was an unrestricted, or he was I don't know if he was a free agent. I don't know if he was restricted or unrestricted. I want to say he was an unrestricted free agent.
Unrestricted, yeah. And it was easy for the Seahawks, and that sort of, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but that sort of rubs the wrong way as well, because it was almost as if, like, if you saw what the Seahawks said, it was basically, he's not a member of the team anymore, and that's it. So so for me, the Seahawks lack of, like, an actual statement sort of felt like, to me, this dude's not on our team anymore, thank God. Yeah, we have nothing to do with that. He's not a Seahawk, or, what I mean? Like, pick a stance and go with it. Like, at least condemn it.
Right. They should be like, hey, look, this isn't. Yeah, they should do that. And the other thing, the reason why I did see it and saw what Joe Thomas said is because Kareem Hunt was trending. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I just, again, my mind goes to the worst possible thing.
Yeah, no, naturally.
And so then I see, they're relating this to what Kareem Hunt did. And
which, we're not condoning anything that Kareem Hunt did, but it's not even a comparison.
It's not in the same universe. What happened with Kareem Hunt? Yeah, I'm not condoning it, but he shouldn't have done it. But he kind of, like, nudged a girl versus beating someone to death.
This is Ray Rice times, like, 100.
Yeah. And if they're
And
and
that was bad.
the thing about Kareem Hunt, guys, and the reason why, Ray was saying if it was Kareem Hunt, it'd be all over ESPN. There's two things. Number one, Kareem Hunt led the NFL in rushing. He was the rushing champion. He was on the best team in the league, and there was video evidence of it.
Yeah.
So they had a whole lot of drama that went along with that, right? With that thing. And it was coming right after Ray Rice,
Yes.
another successful running back. Okay. You take away video evidence of Kareem Hunt, and to be honest, I watched the video plenty of times. Like, I think if anything, the video evidence of the Kareem Hunt situation like exonerates him from what he did. It was not. They tried to paint Kareem Hunt like he did the same thing that Ray Rice did. It wasn't even close. He kind of was just like pushing this girl away, and then ended up like, I guess, like using his leg kicking, which is dumb. And like Kareem Hunt, I've seen his leg, his calves are like this. I mean, those are weapons, but what he did was not what Ray Rice did, and it was certainly not what this dude did. So I understand why. I think it was unfair. There were people that were like, Kareem Hunt's sitting out there waking up and seeing he's trending and then see what he's trending for. He's like, man, I have nothing to do with this, but
No.
it is what it is. It's like, and that's another indicator to me that the Browns are in everyone's mind. And people are you look at our schedule next year, we have some games on this schedule that people are going to be interested in watching, especially that Kansas City game. I think out of all the games that we have on our schedule this year, Kansas City winning or losing the Super Bowl, either way, you go to the AFC Championship game, Super Bowl, you win at least one of them, you are in a dynasty type era, right? And so we played them tough the first time. Can we put some people in some different holes and play them tough again? So that will be the barometer of really how far we've come next time we play them.
And I think, and you and I discussed it last week, I think that, that very well could be your first Monday night game of the season, your first Thursday night game of the season, or quite possibly your first Sunday night. Now I know the Thursday night usually is the Super Bowl champion. If it finishes the way you want it to finish, then that very well could be a Chiefs Brown matchup.
First game of the season, Chiefs Browns in Kansas City to
Yeah,
open the season.
Yeah, very well could be the game.
You know what? I just wish we could open with a cupcake.
It would be nice, but you know what? Isn't that what we thought we were getting in the Tennessee game? We got smacked in the mouth.
Yeah. But I mean, a real cupcake, like
yeah, no, I know.
Not like the Bengals.
Jets.
Yeah, the Jets. Something like that where we can like really just, it's like a warm up game.
Yeah.
And we never get that. We get the Steelers, we get the Ravens.
Well, maybe the Steelers will be our warm up game.
Yeah, they could be.
See what I did there?
Yeah. I think now that Pouncey has retired, I think the dominoes are gonna fall there.
Yeah, that's a big hole.
I don't think Mike Tomlin is that good a coach, and I think he really rode Ben Roethlisberger's. You give Mike Tomlin Ben Roethlisberger when Ben Roethlisberger just started in the league.
Yeah.
His rookie season, his second season. I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. You can make the argument the other way around that he did get him fairly young too. He did win a Super Bowl with him, so maybe I'm wrong there. I could be, but I can tell you that I don't think Mike Tomlin's that great a coach. I personally don't. So
I mean, he's one of those guys that he just was part of. I mean, you look at the Steelers as an organization; they don't fire coaches, so. He was in. I mean, Bill Cowher pretty much handed him a winner, and you've got that kind of team built already. Then, as long as you don't mismanage from a front office standpoint, which we know the Steelers don't, and they haven't for many years, you're going to be able to continue to have successful years and successful seasons, and I think that's what we saw with Mike Tomlin. I mean, he's obviously a solid defensive coordinator, but hopefully now what we're seeing is the demise of them,
Mhm.
and hopefully, they're not. But I mean, look at the front office. I mean, they brought in, they did what they had to do and brought in Minka Fitzpatrick for that first round pick, like we've talked about
It was
on
a
the show,
ballsy. It was a ballsy move too.
and a solid one at
I
that.
didn't think they were
So
going to have to give a first round pick for him
yeah,
with how it was going in Miami and what was happening there. I didn't think they needed to do that, but they offered it,
yeah,
and it worked out.
it worked out.
It really did. But
We'd love to have him, right?
oh, I mean, you imagine if you add one more elite player to that defense.
Yeah.
So I think Denzel's elite. I really do. I think he's
When he plays.
at least Pro Bowl level. Like he's Pro Bowl caliber. Miles is elite when he's.
I still worry about this COVID thing with Miles. I know
I
we
know.
talked about
I
it.
know. I am too. I do too.
Did you see that article, Mike? And if you didn't, I'll send it to you. I was scrolling on Twitter. I came across it, and it was a girl from the WNBA. She's a star, and she's been in the league a couple of years, and she contracted COVID, and she pretty much said, she doesn't think she'll ever play basketball again. It just wreaked havoc on her, coughing up blood, and her lungs are shot. Uh, she said, she's fragile now, and so that's it's out there, and there's people out there like, it's bullshit or whatever. No, it's not bullshit. I mean,
Yeah.
it's real,
Well,
and we saw it.
I had the flu with like bronchitis and like all of that one year, and man, it just took forever to get. When you get like infections in the lungs,
Yeah,
and you're hawking up phlegm and like really
absolutely.
thick stuff, that does take. You don't just because you test negative doesn't mean you're healthy.
Right.
And I give Myles Garrett a ton of credit for getting out there and doing his best, because in deep down in his heart he wanted to be out there
Yeah.
playing at the Myles Garrett level. So I think Myles, I think you give him 6 months and with good serious medical care, and I think he's fine. I think he's back. They give him off season treatment and allow him to, to repair those lungs if that's really the case, repair them, and but you're right, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. It's like any sort of it's like an internal injury, right? And you just don't know. God forbid Myles doesn't have the lung capacity anymore because of COVID. Thanks China for taking away Myles Garrett back half of the year.
Taking Miles away from us. But it's something to monitor for sure.
Absolutely. That's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Anything else, Mike, that from your side?
No, I think we hit a bunch of great topics tonight. I'm going to dive more into some draft stuff, and I look forward to next Wednesday. We could jump back into some more of that, and see what's going on.
What is this,
press
Super Bowl
week
this weekend?
next weekend.
Next week.
So we'll
got
have
one
2
more
days, or I should say 3 days of press, right? Super Bowl
Right.
week. So we could talk about that. See if any hot topics. Anybody make any Joe Namath type of predictions or anything like that?
You looking at this game right now? You're saying you're thinking Tampa? You're leaning Tampa?
Yeah, I think that I think that Tampa gets it done, and I think you got all those injuries on the offensive line of the Chiefs, and I don't know, Tom Brady. Very rare he goes to a Super Bowl to lose it. So I'm going with the Bucks, and we'll talk about it more next week too. But I got to tell you,
Mhm.
between our game and then the cheap shots that they were taking on the Bills, and then that freaking video of Mahomes' girlfriend or fiance or whatever she is, and the brother, I can't stand the Chiefs. I wish Tom put a 50 burger on them.
It looks like the Chiefs are favorited by 3.5, depending upon where you're betting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are the best. I think the Chiefs are the current. They're the current era Dallas Cowboys of the early '90s. I really do.
God, I hope not.
I think they are, and I think that. But if you remember, the Cowboys slipped up, as well in between there and let the 49ers come in and do stuff. So there's I think there's an opportunity, but I think next year the really important thing is going to be about us winning the division and winning the most games because we have to have home field in the playoffs. We got to have home games in the playoffs because that could have been the difference between us beating Kansas City and not this last year where we played. I don't want to play away games, even though Tom Brady did it and now he gets a home Super Bowl.
Yeah, think about
But
that. Went to Breeze's house, took him out. Went to Aaron's house, took him out. It's destiny.
went to Dwayne Haskins' house or
Yeah.
Henke or whatever the guy's name was.
I forgot all about that. Yeah.
I would have I would have said that Drew Brees would have won that game because you don't lose. I tell my friend who's a diehard Saints fan. He's been a Saints fan from New Orleans. Saints fan watches them. I said I think that the Saints will win, and because they don't lose in that dome.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it. I was like, Drew Brees doesn't lose in that dome, and then going to Green Bay. I'm like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't lose in Lambeau in the NFC Championship game. It's put on a silver platter for him.
Yeah.
So now the wild card is if you play this game in a truly neutral site, Chiefs no problem. But man, just they have their own. They don't even have to move the names in the lockers. They have their front office personnel can just go to their office. That to me is just wild. So I think ultimately if Tampa wins, it will be more of a factor that they're playing in the comfort of their own backyard than it is that Tom Brady is the reason why. I personally believe that. I don't have all the answers, guys. I'm not saying that I'm some sort of I'm not a Colin Coward where I'm like, I'm right. These are the reasons why. And that's the end of the story. I'm like, I could be wrong. I don't know.
You were talking about Drew Brees and I got to throw this in before we go, but we may have mentioned it last week, but what I found really Tom Brady is a machine. He may be an alien. I don't know. But
it might be.
When he was on the field with Drew Brees and Drew Brees' kids, and then Drew Brees' kid threw the ball to him, was like, throw me one. And he threw the perfect fade to the kid, in the corner of the end zone. It doesn't even matter who he's throwing to. He's going to throw you a perfect ball.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
I thought it was funny the kind of hype video that he made with Gronk where they were playing the Bad Boys song. And then you see Gronk is just sitting there walking down like Gronk, and then Tom Brady's doing this. He's like,
I know.
Tom Brady looks so weird.
Like an alien.
He did not look human. He looked like an android.
He's two things. Laura says this all the time. Tom Brady is either an alien or he's getting a ton of Botox because his face is like his face is behind the jet engine of a 747 and it's just blowing it back.
Yeah. No, I think Tom Brady's had work done. With married to that model, they have access to it. Tom Brady is going to be, he's going to be on the cover of weird magazines and shit after he's done.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the personality to go into the booth like Troy Aikman does. He just doesn't. He's bland. His personality is cringy, but he can play football. And if he wins the Super Bowl this year, I think he's coming back. I think he's going to do it again.
Yeah, you might as well. The way he looks.
But if you lose the Super Bowl, do you call it quits or you come back?
No, you know what? I think that he takes his health and the game so serious that I don't even think I don't even think retirement's on his mind right
At
now.
43. And you know what? Did you see the Pat McAfee interview with Aaron Rodgers?
No.
Okay, so yesterday I think it was, they had Aaron Rodgers on
Yeah.
with Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk, and they were talking to Rodgers, and they were, because Rodgers had that whole thing about like, hey, I don't know what the future's gonna hold. I'm gonna have to go
Yeah.
figure it out, and and then Rodgers spent 5 minutes defending that, being like, look, I mean, nobody knows about anybody, and
Right.
I'm like, come on, dude, you're Aaron freaking Rodgers. Like, you know what you were saying. You were saying you're going to think about your career and ending it because you were in an emotional state and you reacted to that moment. And now you're trying to he should have just been like, you know what, I reacted. And, I think I put out the hint that might mean retirement. But, honestly, I've had a couple days to think about it, and that's not really on the radar right now. Like, I still need to. So he was kind of dishonest in the way that he was responding to Pat. But I will tell you this: you got the sense that he was in some sort of mourning, right? You did get that sense. He was very, Aaron Rodgers is sort of like the guy from the State Farm commercials. He's like acts like that in real life. And then to hear the guy, like, it was, you could just tell he was down.
Yeah.
He was down. He was defeated. He was massively disappointed, because I think if he would have won the Super Bowl this year, I think he would have been done. He would have been like, I got my two. I'm going out like Elway, and that's just going to be that. I'm going to ride off into the sunset and do that. But I also think Aaron Rodgers is another guy that I don't think you can put Aaron Rodgers in the booth. I think he has a very off-putting personality, and he is kind of weird and estranged from his family, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, and
He's weird relationships with Danica and the other girl,
Olivia
I can't think of her name.
Munn.
Yeah, Olivia Munn. Yes.
Yeah, so like, yeah, he has had. He's just a weird. He's kind of a weirdo, and it's just like, and his one brother was like saying something like, hey, it's great that he's winning and doing all this stuff, but maybe he would find 5 minutes to give his mom a call or something. It's like some shitty cold level airing of some laundry right there.
Yeah.
But then again, you get the younger brother goes on The Bachelorette and stuff like that. I don't know if you ever watched that show. I don't watch it. My wife watches it.
No.
But the second that I heard Aaron Rodgers' younger brother was on it,
Right.
I'm like, oh, she's going to pick him.
Right.
Because these people that go on to The Bachelorette, these women, they're vapid. And they're not really looking for love. They're looking to be reality stars. And how do you become a reality star? Oh, I'm going to go marry Aaron. I'm going to go marry into the Rodgers family. Right. Now I'm the Bachelorette who's in the Rodgers family. Your last name is now Rodgers. Even though you're not married to Aaron's little brother, but you're still, it's like marrying a Kennedy. Like, you're in. You're invited to the picnic now, right? So I was like, yeah. But so this kid, and that kid was using his brother's name to get on The Bachelor. And The Bachelor people were like, yeah, we want Aaron Rodgers' brother on here. Of course. They love that shit. Yeah. So, yeah, either way, it does. Nonetheless, I digress a little bit. Aaron Rodgers is a bit of a weirdo, and I don't think he's somebody that I would sit there and listen to on Sundays or, in the booth. I just don't see that from him.
No, I don't either.
Neither Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees is him. He's done, and his wife, after what happened with the whole Black Lives Matter movement, where he came out in the middle of it and was like, I just can't support anybody who kneels for the flag. Like, one of the dumbest, most tone deaf times to come out and say that.
Yeah.
And then the amount of hate that him and his family got. I mean, a admirable return. And serviceable from a standpoint, did his best he could, but Drew Brees is done. He should hang it up.
Yeah, and I think he will.
Yeah, I think he should too. Just like Phil Rivers finally hangs it up.
Yeah,
we are watching in real time the changing the guard, and from the Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Peyton Manning's gone already, Eli Manning's gone already. Those guys. The only guy that's kind of like in the middle of his career right now, that's kind of like was a tweener between the last generation and this generation, is like Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And he's like in the middle and doesn't fit on either end of it.
No. It's like even you look down at the Cowboys, Romo was a guy that was part of
Gone.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you could put Dak in with this current crop of guys as well. And here's another funny thing. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a Vikings fan, my friend Corey, who actually had him on when we brought in Stefanski, and we were
Corey from the league.
yes, Corey from the league, right? So I had him on when we brought in Stefanski, right? So this is going to be interesting. Okay, so Kirk Cousins, you know, pretty bad year this year in terms of the overall record
Hmm?
that they had, 7-9. Kirk Cousins had a 67.6% completion percentage,
Hmm.
35 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, threw for 4,265 yards. Team was 7-9.
Yeah.
Corey's
They-
like, Kirk Cousins sucks. He's terrible.
Hmm.
And I'm sitting there going, dude, he just arguably had the best year of his career.
And that's after them taking Diggs away from him.
After took away that weapon. And threw 35 touchdowns, 13 picks, which is a little bit more than I think most people would like. And also you got to think about the situations, like when is he throwing the garbage time touchdowns when they don't matter? Are they throwing the interceptions when in critical times? So those stats don't really tell the true tale.
Yeah.
You probably look at that. This is where something like a PFF score would matter, because on paper, on the stats, he is not a quarterback that I would say is an abject failure in the NFL.
I'll tell
But
you what. Before we go, I'll look it up just for you.
because Kirk Cousins right now,
Kirk Cousins actually had an amazing PFF score all the way through.
there you go.
He was 11th, 83.9 overall, 80.9 passing. And I mean, if you want to compare that, going from 11 to 8 is the difference of 83.9 to 85.7. But I tell you what, Mike, you want to know the final PFF quarterback grade for your Baker Mayfield?
I would love it.
Baker Mayfield. So you had Aaron Rodgers at 1. I'm gonna give you several guys that were in the 90s, okay? And there were 23 guys that were between 95.1 and 75.1.
So I would say I could probably guess some of them.
All right, so I'm gonna to set the mood here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys had either a 95 or a 90.3 was the lowest. Name those 7 guys.
All right. Deshaun Watson's up there.
He's
somewhere.
3.
Okay.
He's 3.
Pat
92.5.
Mahomes.
He's 4. 92.3.
Josh Allen.
7. 90.3.
Tom Brady.
Number 2. 93.7.
I'm just looking at the teams, so I'm
Yep.
trying to look at the teams and
Think
then
of,
look at like who are the quarterback for that team.
Think of a team that just lost. You were just talking about them at length.
Who was I just talking about? Like it wasn't not the Steelers, not the Ravens.
NFC.
Drew Brees.
Drew Brees is
He probably
not-
wouldn't. He probably wouldn't have been up there because he was injured.
Yeah, no.
Aaron Rodgers, right?
Yeah.
Number 1, right?
Aaron Rodgers is 195.1. Now you have 2 guys left in the top 7, and you were talking about one of them being a tweener.
Oh, Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson 6 at 90.5, and then number
last guy.
5. Yep. This is a guy that was drafted in the first round, did nothing, and then he got traded to a team and had a rejuvenation. And it's still obviously a top 5 quarterback. Give you a hint.
Tannehill?
Yeah. Yep. Tannehill is 5th at 90.6. And coming in 8th, the first of the 80s at 85.7 is your very own Baker Mayfield.
So what number was he? 8?
Yep.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Is Baker
95.1, 93.7, 92.5, 92.3, 90.6, 90.5 was Russell Wilson, 90.3 was Josh Allen, and then you had Baker Mayfield at the tops of the 80s at 85.7.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the stats now. Russell Wilson threw 40 touchdowns. Tom Brady threw 40 touchdowns. Right.
Yeah.
And then you got and Aaron Rodgers threw 48.
Yep.
Which is like, I mean, with 5 interceptions. That might be the best.
Statistic.
Maybe it's going to be real close to one of the best statistic years ever.
And how many yards did Aaron Jones have in touchdowns? Because he had to have a 1,000-yard rushing season, I would think. So
I'm sure, yeah.
That's even more amazing that Rodgers threw for 45 and what 5 you said, and also had a 1,000-yard rusher and probably 8 or 9 touchdowns himself.
And Baker only threw 26 touchdowns.
Yep.
But in a year where there were only 3 guys who threw in the 40s, with Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers, and then, and Pat Mahomes, I'd give it to him. He's in that upper echelon. Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen, I'm going to put them in the top echelon with 38 and 37 touchdowns. I mean, you're close enough to the 40s. We're like solidified there. But then the next tier down, 35 Cousins, 33 Watson, 33 Tannehill, 33 Ben, 31 Herbert. So that was the one. The Herbert one is where I go, okay, Herbert can play.
I got to tell you, I don't want to toot my own horn.
Was he a rookie this year?
Yes.
Did he break Baker's rookie touchdown?
He sure did.
That sucks. I was hoping Baker would hold on to that a little.
Aaron Jones, 1,100 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns. I was like spot on. Little pat on my back.
I think the thing about Baker threw 26 TDs and 8 interceptions. Baker Mayfield was not asked to do any more than that to win 11 games. Nope. Not really. He wasn't asked to do any more than that. When you have Kareem Hunt and you have Nick Chubb, you do that and you do that well. I'd like to see Baker's completion percentage go up, because that, I think, is the difference between truly elite and like Aaron Rodgers at 70%. 7 out of every 10 passes he throws, he completes. And 48 touchdowns.
Little non-football update.
Drew Brees also 70%. Interesting.
Cavaliers with the 122-107 victory tonight. Sexton, 29 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. So solid night for them.
Good kid. He's going to be, I think he's going to be, he's a guy that you can build around.
Yeah.
Point guard, right?
Is Sexton the point guard? He's a guard. I don't know if he's a point guard. Isn't that terrible? I don't even know that.
I'm not watching NBA either. So I don't. But I'll tell you what, like the NBA and hockey are going to lose a lot of money by not having fans in the stands. A lot. They're saying that hockey's going to lose $1 billion.
Yeah, it's crazy.
$1 billion. Right? I mean, that is crazy. But I mean, also on top of that, I think the people in North America are losing billions from the people not working. And, I actually talked to a friend yesterday who's in New York, and you're close enough to New York. Is your state closed?
We're not closed, but it's it's still running rampant, and masks are. Well, I think now it's a federal thing, but you're not allowed anywhere without a mask here. But to your point, I have a friend in New York, and he'll send me pictures during the day, and it's an absolute ghost town.
Yeah. I mean, New York City is dead, shut
And I
down.
mean, yeah, we don't even know what. We don't know what anything is going to bring. There could be. We could come to football season and we could be in the same boat. We don't know.
Yeah.
All these different variants
But
that are
the
coming
the
out and
weird thing
whatnot. But
is, like, here in Florida,
well, it's like,
my parents were here last weekend, going out to dinner,
yeah,
people
it,
everywhere,
it's almost like it
cars
doesn't
everywhere.
exist down by you
It
guys.
doesn't. It really
But aren't the
doesn't.
numbers aren't the numbers high down there though?
I, I tell you, man, I don't know. Like, I know I've been living in the state for, you know, 17 years, something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I know I know one personally. I don't know a single person. I know people have gotten it. I know people have
yeah,
gotten it because people have tested positive at my kid's school and stuff like that. I don't know a person personally who got it
yeah. And
in the
meanwhile,
state of Florida.
that's crazy. And meanwhile, up here, I've had family members that passed, and I've had. I could give you 10 people off the top of my head that I friends with or were good friends with, that them and their family have it.
Uh,
Yeah, it's wild.
yeah. Well, I guess I could say, like, I don't know him personally, but I know of a guy
Yeah.
who got it, and he didn't even have a problem with COVID. He had a problem because he got pneumonia. And they were saying that people wearing masks could create in the Spanish flu or the one that happened in like the early
Yeah.
1900s.
Yeah. 1918, I
That's
think.
what got a lot of people was the pneumonia from wearing the masks.
I believe it because I don't, like I told you, I have bad asthma, we go nowhere. And when I do have to go out, when I take that mask off, I have a very uh I'm labored, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
it's tough for me to try and breathe through that thing. Hopefully this vaccine, does the trick, but
yeah.
I don't know with there's just too many different variables, but we'll see.
But I can tell you down here in Florida, I mean, we went out to dinner, and you're wearing your mask when when you're walking around the common area, but I mean, we're 2 feet away from people when you're having dinner,
Right.
and everybody's mask off, having, drinking, eating.
Crazy.
I'm walking around, going into stores, everything. I mean, and you're you do the hand sanitizer, you wash your hands when you come home, you do all that kind of stuff. You wear your mask, but, like, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's Florida is open for business, and that's why I think my parents were able to sell their house like that. People are coming, and they're
Yeah. You
going.
kind of wonder too if it's when if you look, during the summer months up here. It was still bad, but there was almost like a little bit of a reprieve, and I don't know if that's from all the vitamin D from the sunlight, and you guys get plenty of that down there. So
Mhm.
who knows? And I guess the answer is nobody knows, but
Right, nobody does.
it is what it is.
Yeah, well, hopefully it goes away, and Miles
Yeah.
isn't gonna have to deal with it for the rest of his life because that would just be like, we're just ridiculous. But
Yeah. I agree.
anyway, guys, yeah, we've been at it for a good 2 hour, 20 minutes. Probably good time to hang it up for the night. Appreciate everybody being here that stuck with us. S Zupan, I see you in the house. Stomping has been here all night. Best
Yeah.
Impact, what's going
Best
on?
impact.
Best. Ray is out there. Max Nikolenko stopped by for a little bit. Appreciate you, Max. A bunch of other people were in the house too.
Yeah.
I think Burlow, I think I saw for a little bit. Yeah, it's a bunch of Mr.
Mr.
Bsif
B.
is
Seth.
Mr.
Yeah.
Bsif's in the house. J. Ben Santiago family, the entire family was here.
That we did we say anything bad tonight? I don't think we did. I think we were on
No,
our best behavior.
I've got a stomping. Who else have I got?
Ray.
Matt
Ray's
Matt
out
Matt
there.
Matt Bernard. Ray's in that. Yeah, guys. When I'm listening and I'm not talking, I'm reading the chat, and
Yeah.
there's so many times when you're like, "Hey, Mike, what do you think of this?" And I'm like, I can't address. I'll try if I can remember it. I'll address it later, which is why I was doing I was doing the empty backfield so I could just talk to you guys, and and all that. So I gotta go back and start doing my empty backfield again, so you just can talk to the chat.
Yeah.
I love talking to you guys. I love the fact you guys are in here and doing all that. So appreciate you guys very much. Mike, thank you as always. Another
You got it.
lovely Wednesday show in the books. Lots of stuff to talk about next week as well. We'll get some Call of Duty games in this weekend for sure. I will be playing this weekend, so
Yeah.
we'll hook up there, and we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next Wednesday for the Wednesday show.
Sounds good.
Go Browns.
Go Browns.